Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président, Prime Minister. On va passer aux questions des journalistes.
Thank you. Chris Mason from BBC News. The same question to you both, if I may. Do you think you'll ever be able to arrange a deal where migrants leaving France for the UK are returned to France? Thank you.
Sure. Yeah, I'll take that. Thanks, Chris. I think what you've seen today is an unprecedented level of cooperation on tackling this shared challenge, because that's what it is. It's a shared challenge. It's not just the UK that's grappling with illegal migration. It's not just France. Countries across Europe. And now our partnership is incredibly strong. I think the work that our two Home Secretaries, Suella and Gerard, have done over the past few months has been unlike anything that anyone's ever seen. And you're seeing the fruits of that cooperation today with a new agreement, new investment, and that will help both of us stop the cycle of these criminal gangs. And going forward, there will be more that we can do. We started that last November. We've built on it today, and we'll continue cooperating. As the President said, and he'll probably talk about, the Calais Group is another important forum for these conversations to happen with other Northern European countries. And I'm sure Emmanuel probably will talk a little bit about the EPC. And as we think about future cooperation between the UK and other countries in Europe, what the President has set up as a new forum for that engagement to happen, and illegal migration, I'm certain will be one of the topics that we will discuss when we come to that meeting that we'll be pleased to host next year in the UK, and obviously is happening this year elsewhere.
Yes, thank you for your question. First, I think we focus on what we have to do on the short run to prevent precisely these migrations and to try to dismantle migrations and to try to dismantle all these groups, these networks and these smugglers. And I think the level of ambition of this new plan is exactly what we need. This is what we can do at the bilateral level. Second, this is not an agreement between UK and France, but an agreement between UK and the EU, because Dublin Agreement are no more in a situation to be implemented. So this is something now to be negotiated. Third, as Mr. Prime Minister just further said, we do believe that the right way to approach these migrations is a broader space. Western Balkans, European Union, and not just France and UK, have to work closely together in order precisely to dismantle these groups and to be more efficient regarding this phenomenon. And this is why it's part of the key topics we have to discuss in the framework of this European political community. And our perspective is to have concrete discussion in June in Chisinau, in Moldova, and indeed, next semester we will have in Spain, and the semester after in UK. So we want to follow up.
Question suivante pour la partie française.
Bonjour Monsieur le Président, Monsieur le Premier ministre, Francesco Fontemaggi pour l'agence France Presse. Le Kremlin a dit voir la main étrangère et particulièrement occidentale derrière le mouvement de protestation des derniers jours en Géorgie. Quelle est votre réponse à ça, et voyez-vous en retour la main de Vladimir Poutine derrière le projet de loi gouvernemental que la Géorgie a finalement dû retirer? Et si je peux, sur l'Ukraine, vous avez parlé de conditions à créer pour une paix future. Est-ce que vous êtes sur la même longueur d'onde sur la nécessité d'une négociation à terme? Est-ce que M. Sunak, vous partagez cette conviction du président français? Merci.
Sur votre première question, je pense qu'il y a une tendance qui n'est pas nouvelle au Kremlin à considérer que tout mouvement de population est une manipulation venant de l'extérieur. Parce que la conviction profonde est qu'au fond, qu'il n'y a pas d'opinion publique ni de peuple libre. On a le droit, en tant que vieille démocratie, de penser le contraire. Donc je ne qualifierai pas ce qui est en train de se passer, mais je pense qu'il ne faut pas tomber dans cette explication sommaire. Il n'en demeure pas moins que la Géorgie aujourd'hui est traversée par des mouvements préoccupants, que nous avons vu des images ces derniers jours qui sont aussi préoccupantes. Jeune femme portant le drapeau européen, bousculée pour ne pas dire plus, et tout ça ne peut nous laisser indifférents. Et donc, en tant qu'Européens, l'un et l'autre, je crois que nous avons une volonté qui est d'aider justement les opinions publiques de la manière la plus libre possible à exprimer leurs sentiments et des pays à mener souverainement le cours de leur existence. La Géorgie est soumise aujourd'hui à des pressions très fortes. Je souhaite qu'elle puisse trouver le chemin d'une plus grande sérénité qui est le seul compatible avec cette perspective européenne que nous lui avons reconnue. J'ajouterai que dans ce contexte, notre souhait aussi est que les éléments de pacification soient pris par le gouvernement, que les anciens responsables politiques qui sont aujourd'hui détenus apparemment en mauvaise santé puissent être libérés, en tout cas qu'on puisse prendre en compte leur état de santé et qu'on ait un apaisement par rapport aux tensions régionales. Nous aurons l'occasion en européen d'y revenir dans les prochaines semaines. Pour ce qui est de l'Ukraine, à court terme, notre volonté est d'aider l'Ukraine à résister et à mener les contre-offensives qu'elle souhaite mener. La priorité du moment est militaire. Pour ma part, j'ai toujours dit que notre perspective était en effet qu'il puisse y avoir une paix durable bâtie au moment où l'Ukraine le choisira et dans des conditions qui seront les siennes. Et notre devoir est de la placer dans cette situation.
Thanks. And I think I agree with Emmanuel. So let me just be unequivocal about this. We want Ukraine to win this war, and we're absolutely united in that. And right now, that means providing them with the support and the capabilities and the training in order to mount a counteroffensive and have decisive advantage on the battlefield. And that's what you've seen from the UK, from France, from other allies, whether it's through the provision of main battle tanks, longer-range weapons, as we've announced today, training of Marines. These are all things that will help Ukraine win this war, gain that advantage on the battlefield, mount a successful counteroffensive, and that's what we are channeling all our energies towards. And with regard to the future, I think I agree with what Emmanuel just said there. Ultimately, that is a decision for Ukraine to make. It's not a decision for us to make for them. Our job is to put Ukraine in the strongest possible position. And that is what our conversations today have been about. That's what our defense ministers spend an enormous amount of time coordinating. And I think actually the announcements that you've seen from us today around training Marines, helping with the provision of ammunition, are very tangible examples of our commitment to deliver Ukraine that advantage. And that is where all our focus is going to be over the coming weeks and months.
Question suivante pour la presse britannique.
Oliver Wright from The Times. Prime Minister, the UK has already spent around £300 million supporting French efforts to stem small boats, but the boats have kept coming. The UK is now promising around £500 million more. What makes you think that this money will be any more effective? President Macron, if I may, do you think Britain and France can ever be as close as they were before Brexit?
I'll take your first one. I think just a couple of things. I think you described it as French efforts. Let's just be clear. These are joint efforts, right? That's the first thing to recognise. These are efforts by our teams jointly on the ground to tackle what is a shared challenge. And that's the first thing to get across. So now you talked in terms about our previous investment. Actually, Emmanuel mentioned it in his remarks, right? 50 different criminal gangs broken, almost 500 arrests made. And just this year, thousands of boats stopped. Right, that is the result of a partnership that is working and is delivering. Now, is the situation still challenging? Of course it is, right? And that's because there is a global migration problem that we are seeing the impact of on our shores and across Europe, and as we saw recently, tragically, people dying off the coast of Italy. Now, there are global forces at play, but we are working incredibly hard to try and break that cycle. And I think the cooperation that we've had, and especially since last November, has really made a difference. And the announcements that we've made today will make an even bigger difference going forward. And I've always been clear, there's no one solution to solving this very complicated problem, and nor will it be solved overnight. Right? But there's, our new legislation will help, and I've always said cooperation with our allies, especially France, is an important part of that. But where we can make investments alongside Emmanuel and France, we're not doing this alone, we're jointly investing in all these operations. Or indeed upstream to disrupt criminal crime gangs, whether it's in the Balkans or elsewhere. Those are good investments for the UK to make if they stop people coming and reduce the pressure on our asylum system in our hotels. And I actually think today's agreements represent a very positive step forward, and the level of cooperation and integration is going to make a difference, and I think we are confident, our teams are confident, that you're going to see the benefit of that on the ground, and that's what we're going to deliver.
Look, this is my wish, but it depends on what we will do in the coming months and years. On the short run, what we have to do is to fix the consequences of the Brexit. A lot of issues we have are direct consequences of the Brexit, and probably some of these consequences were underestimated, but we have to fix them. Second, we have to deal with the consequences of this war and the new geopolitical context. But what we want to do is now to build new partnerships on defense and security, facing the war, regarding climate change, in order to better coordinate our international activity. And for our businesses and our people, we want to build new links, new relations. And indeed, this European political community is one of those frameworks. I think this is a very relevant political framework to build something new at the level of the continent. My wish, definitely, because it makes sense with our history, our geography, our DNA, I would say, is to have the best possible relation and the closest alliance. But it will depend on our commitment, our willingness, but I'm sure we will do it.
Et dernière question pour la presse française.
Bonjour Monsieur le Premier ministre, bonjour Monsieur le Président, Mathieu Coache, BFM TV. Vos deux pays sont confrontés à des mouvements sociaux importants en ce moment. Est-ce que vous avez évoqué ensemble ces questions, des mouvements sociaux sur fond d'inflation? Est-ce que vous avez évoqué cette question et des mécanismes peut-être pour lutter contre l'inflation? Et puis Monsieur Macron, la réforme des retraites est au cœur des contestations. Vous dites dans un courrier aux syndicats aujourd'hui que les parlementaires représentent la pluralité des opinions de notre pays. Si votre projet n'obtient pas de majorité auprès de ces parlementaires, est-ce que vous excluez de passer en force et d'utiliser l'article 49.3 pour faire passer la réforme que vous portez? Je vous remercie.
Merci beaucoup. La situation que nos pays vivent, de toute façon, crée beaucoup de difficultés pour nombre de nos compatriotes. Et en effet, l'inflation, qu'il s'agisse de l'énergie, des prix alimentaires, du coût de la vie, crée des situations extrêmement difficiles pour... dans la plupart des pays, dans tous les pays européens, pour nos concitoyens. C'est pourquoi d'ailleurs, je le rappelle, depuis l'automne 2021, nous avons une politique résolue de soutien, à la fois d'abord sur les prix de l'énergie, puis maintenant les prix alimentaires, en prenant en charge beaucoup de ces dépenses pour les classes moyennes et les Français les plus modestes, et en ayant aussi des mécanismes poussant les acteurs économiques à prendre leurs responsabilités, y compris avec les choix faits et la mobilisation des distributeurs ces derniers jours. Donc il y a une très grande vigilance, un engagement, et regardez d'ailleurs les chiffres de la France par rapport à beaucoup de comparables. Nous restons parmi les pays à l'inflation la plus basse d'Europe parce qu'il y a eu toute cette politique qui a été menée. Ensuite, il y a en effet eu des manifestations dans le contexte de la réforme des retraites. Je ne ferai pas ici de politique fiction parce que ce n'est pas mon rôle. Il y a eu un temps de négociation syndicale, il y a ensuite eu un temps de travail de l'exécutif. Il y a ensuite le temps parlementaire à l'Assemblée, puis maintenant au Sénat. Et le Sénat travaille d'arrache-pied et de jour et de nuit pour poursuivre sur ce texte. Il faut respecter ce temps parlementaire sans faire quelques scénarios de fiction que ce soit. Et je laisse les sénateurs travailler et les sénatrices travailler avec le gouvernement. Et ensuite, il se trouve que le Parlement suivra les termes de notre Constitution pour qu'un texte législatif puisse aller à son terme, ni plus ni moins. Et cela dans un climat de calme, de respect des accords et des désaccords, mais avec aussi le sens des responsabilités dans le contexte qui est le nôtre.
I think when you talk about inflation and the cost of living, the biggest driver of that inflation is energy prices. Right? It's because we've had a war that has weaponized energy supplies, and all of our citizens are paying the price for that. And actually that's one of the very practical, tangible things to come out of today's summit, is that cooperation between our two countries and our businesses on improving our energy security and accelerating the transition to renewable, nuclear and more secure energy supplies. Now I'm more confident that we can make that happen as a result of today's summit. because of the partnership between our researchers, our businesses, our governments, we are going to be able to get our citizens cheaper, more secure, more renewable and cleaner energy faster. And that's what people should come away from this, seeing that actually these things can make a big difference for the citizens that we're both very privileged to represent. We want to ease the pressures on cost of living for them. The way to do that is to diversify and improve our supply of energy and accelerate that transition to net zero. And we've made good progress on that goal today. And maybe that's a thought that I can close on. A little bit it goes to the previous question. That's a tangible example of the relationship that we have. And you can see that today in the comprehensive nature of the discussions, the breadth of the discussions, the depth of the discussions, the fact that we've both got our senior teams all here today talking through these issues. I always say we left the EU, but we didn't leave Europe. And Emmanuel said previously, Brexit didn't change geography. Right? We want to have a close, cooperative, collaborative relationship with our European partners and allies. And of course, that starts with our nearest neighbour, France. And today is the first step on that journey. We're writing a new chapter in this relationship, and I'm really looking forward to everything that we can build on in the coming months and years ahead.
Nous arrivons au terme de cette conférence de presse, donc merci à vous.
Merci beaucoup. Thank you so much.